Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Lori Davis here on the Dr. Lori Davis Show. Boy, it's been a busy week. We broadcast every day, 5 days a week, but we choose Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to do live broadcasts. So if you want to pick up a show after that or during that, you just go to e360tv.com and all of our episodes are archived in there. So if you've missed a show or there's a topic that we talked about that you missed, please feel free to do that. Also, at this time, we're streaming live on Self Worth the Missing Link, Superstars, just saying, on that Facebook page. So if you want to go in right now to Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars, this show will be broadcast live there. And we also have a YouTube channel, Lori Davis Show Host. So just check that out. And we're broadcasting and streaming right now on YouTube. So we have a wide, lots of legs and wide demographics because we have adults, youth, and young children who listen to our shows. So that's amazing to me. My very special guest today is Amanda and her colleague Michelle, and we do this show once a year, just prior to the walk, Darkness into Light. And I've not met Amanda before because other members of the committee have been here. So welcome to the show, Amanda, and let's just go over to you for introductions, where you're located, and why you've chosen to be part of this amazing organization. Over to you.
Absolutely. My name's Amanda, and my family and I do Darkness into Light because we lost my husband, Elliot, in 2016. Last Friday was just 7 years and kind of surreal, to be honest. We've come so far, but yet it's still one of those days that you just will never forget. So Darkness into Light definitely brings in a lot of hope for my family. It also is a way for us to honor Elliot. Elliot was a 22-year veteran with the Canadian Forces, and he joined just shy of his 18th birthday, so devoted most of his life. So I feel like it's my calling now to bring awareness to suicide and to mental health, and to bring it kind of to the forefront. And also, I think it's really important. It's a good way for kids to get involved because it's kind of a easier, lighthearted kind of way to get conversation started. Because I think it's super important in our youth. They're living in a, day-to-day society that's got a lot of pressures. So I really like to see kids out there doing it, give them hope for their futures, and get the conversation started. So that's
Cool.
basically why I do that.
Cool. Your volume is just down a little. We heard you, but it wasn't really up there. So just want you to make sure you've got your volume. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Is that good?
A little better. Maybe getting closer to your device might help.
All right, how's that?
That's a lot better.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Well, I lost my husband also in 1984. I dealt with two very dramatic and traumatic suicide attempts in a week. And I managed to save him because I found him both times. And he ended up going into an institution where he chose to live for the next 2 years. And then he came out and we visited and everything. He had moved in with his sister and decided to go visit a brother for a weekend. And he never showed up. So he's basically been on a missing persons list since 1986. And that's why Darkness into Light is so close to my heart. And I love the work that you're doing because I have a personal connection to that. And it was a very hard time. And I'll talk a little more about that because I see Michelle has arrived. So, hey, beautiful, good afternoon.
Oh boy, I'm on my phone. I just couldn't
Okay,
get on the computer, so
okay.
here we are.
That's all right. So
Sorry
I
about
was
that.
just asking, we did our introductions, and I asked
Okay.
Amanda her reason for being involved in Darkness into Light. So And even though I know your story, a lot of our viewers won't know that. So over to you, Michelle, for introductions, where you're located, and why
Okay.
you're involved in this organization, Darkness into Light.
Okay. My name's Michelle Zosky. I lost my dad to suicide 37 years ago. I was 19. He was 56. It was November 9th of 1986. So it's been a long time. And yeah, it was only in the last 10 years that I really kind of opened up about my loss and joined the support group and got connected with Gary Unger and Merle Murray and Amanda and everybody. And yeah, and Gary spearheaded the walk to come to Edmonton. His daughter had attended the one in Calgary the year before. And this is our 5th year. So
Wow.
yeah, and I mean it's good. I think it's been healing me because I never really dealt with the grief and the loss at the time, right? Because you didn't talk about it back then like you do now. It's a little bit more open now for sure. So yeah.
Well, just tell me about it, because it was 1986 that my husband disappeared. You know my story.
Yeah.
And back then, this is how scary it was. All right. And how, and that's why I'm so grateful for your organization, because back in the day when that all went down, um, for 7 years, and Amanda, you'll connect with this maybe because it's your husband and it's close. Because I didn't see any of the signs. And so for a long time after that, I blamed myself that I was in denial about certain behaviors that he had or certain emotional issues that he had. But for 7 years, when you go out with some girlfriends and stuff, and maybe you're in a bar or you're at a restaurant, and guys are hitting on you. And when guys would say to me, "Oh, are you single? Are you married? Like, what's the deal?" And I would say, "Well, actually, I'm widowed." "Oh, I'm so sorry. And what happened?" For 7 years, I lied and I said, my husband was in a really bad car crash.
It's
Because,
easier sometimes to lie, right? Than to
yeah, because the stigma in the 80s, the stigma attached to that was
Yeah.
so intense.
Yeah.
And he was 34, and we didn't have any children. And I've had people say to me so unkind things. "Oh, you're so lucky you didn't have any kids that would have to go through that." And I went, "Are you kidding me? If I'd had a couple of little kids, I'd have had a reason to get up in the morning."
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I relate. I think it truly, like, I think there still is a stigma around suicide. To be honest, I'd never been hit by anybody who had died by suicide. I was in denial at the beginning. Like, I had trouble. I could barely utter the word suicide, like, let alone like admitting to people that that's how my husband died. Like, I would literally just tell people that he was really sick and he was in the military and allow them to just, make up their own story for a period of time, because I hadn't healed that part yet. And I hadn't come to terms with it until I realized, and I also found, the support group and DIL, and, that feeling of not feeling alone. And yeah, I can relate to the guy thing. Like, it's a weird thing. It's like, well, I try not to go into that right away, but I'm really honest now. And like, yeah, my husband died because that's my reality, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
and I was early too that I'm grateful for like good therapists and stuff, because like they taught me. At first I was like never going to tell my kids, and I was like, no, like I don't want them, this, that, or whatever. But they basically said, like, do you want to tell them, or do you want someone in the playground to be like, oh, your dad killed himself or your dad committed suicide? No, you want to put the tools in their toolbox so that they're able to comprehend that and heal at their own pace. So I can totally relate with you. It is different.
Mm-hmm.
And how old are your children now, Amanda?
I have twins. I have, they're just about 12. I have a boy and a girl, and they were 4 the year he passed away. And I am like so proud of them. They have come so their mom. And but you are right, Lori. They literally, the first year was terrible. I didn't do a lot of good in the first year, but I definitely had a reason to get out of bed every morning. And you're right. Like I was, what you said, like if you had two little ones, you were able. But I think if I didn't, like I literally would have stayed in bed all day. But I had to get out of bed. So it made me get out of bed and get them to school, even if I went back to bed. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just took them on Friday, just, telling them, how grateful I am for them too. And I'm glad that we have each other. So,
Yeah. Because I was in bed for a year after that.
believe it.
I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
My diet was I had never touched alcohol even ever in my life. And my diet became a box of Hochtaler wine in the fridge, a loaf of French bread, and a block of cheese. That was my diet for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cook. I didn't have a reason to get up. I didn't work. Thank gosh, I had some resources. But you see, in 1986 or 1984, when your husband died of suicide, there was no, even though he was insured to the hilt, there was no money
Hmm.
and there was no funeral.
Right.
My case, right? So the closure was tough. So, Michelle, over to you a little bit about your reaction to your dad's death, and then I want to talk about your organization, okay?
Sure.
And let our viewers know all about Darkness into Light, what it is, why you're doing. Well, we're talking about why we're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but the details, the logistics of how do people get involved? How do they donate money? How do they
Sure.
participate in the walk? But first,
Yep.
Michelle, let's go to you after losing your dad. Where did that
Okay.
put you?
So I was actually in my second year in nursing, doing my psych rotation, right? So I was learning all the signs of depression and suicide, and it hit me like a ton of bricks that, oh my God, my dad is in a deep, deep depression, and he had the signs. I saw the signs, and it took everything out of me to ask him. And maybe it was the way I asked him, I don't know, and maybe he wasn't suicidal that day, or maybe he was just trying to protect me. I don't know. He said no, that he wasn't going to harm himself, and then I just, I just felt this huge amount of relief that, great, I don't have anything to worry about. So, this was, I was just heading back to Edmonton to go back to school, and then I didn't. He was supposed to be getting help. He was supposed to be seeing a psychologist, but I never called him that week. I never followed up or anything. And that following Sundays, when my brother and I found him, and I did CPR on him, and yeah, couldn't save him. So that was November 9th. It was a short week because we had Remembrance Day that week, and I just took that week off and I jumped right back into my studies full time, because it was better to stuff it down and forget about what just happened than to deal with the pain and the guilt and everything else. So I jumped right back into my studies, had to write an exam and study all the signs of suicide, because I was taking that. That was the course at the time, was my psych rotation. I mean, I must have aced that exam, but anyways, and then I really didn't have anybody to talk to but one instructor, and I guess my sister and some family members. But yeah, it was. I mean, you're by yourself, kind of dealing with the emotions and the feelings because of the guilt. We had a funeral, actually in a Catholic church, which we're kind of surprised, but there was no mention at all during that time of how he died or anything like that. Actually, my mom was blamed for his death because they were divorced, and she was blamed. So, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, and similar to that, when my husband passed away, I lost that whole side of the family because
Yes,
they
yes,
chose to blame me for what happened.
right.
Maybe I wasn't a good wife, and I blah blah blah, and I bought into all of that. So I didn't really just lose him; I lost all my family on that side, with whom, because my husband was a twin also.
Oh,
There's twins all around here
there
today,
is. Yeah.
and they didn't get it. But so there's just, we don't just lose that person, we lose everything that's attached to them, right? So family, colleagues, working partners. Yeah, for sure. Since COVID, I personally take 3 to 4 calls a week talking kids down from suicide, and adults as well. I get calls probably 3 or 4 a week.
You're seeing
And
the more younger population. I find. I think back when you lost your husband and I lost my dad, it was more common, I think, to see middle-aged men. Do you find that now is more the younger generation? I find they're having a harder time coping with their emotions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, my husband had been thinking about taking his life since he was 11.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When he lost his dad, okay,
To
not to suicide, but heart surgery that didn't work
okay.
out, okay. So that was the root of where he chose to start thinking about, dad, and I didn't have a dad, and et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So it took 23 years for it to emerge. So that's why I asked you, Amanda, how old are your kids?
Yeah.
Because, we need to make sure they're okay. But yeah. And just on that note, and then we'll get into your organization, I was a constant or regular speaker at a conference in Saskatoon called the OASIS Conference. And this was a conference, this is just prior to COVID. I spoke there 3 years in a row, and it was a gathering of everybody who works in Aboriginal schools. So we had people from the Northwest Territories, we had people from everywhere. And I was always a key workshop leader and speaker. So anyway, I was giving some statistics because I was doing a sort of like a suicide prevention presentation. And I put a slide up that said, well, the youngest client that I know about is 9, okay, statistically. And during the break, this woman from the Northwest Territories came down and said, I don't mean to edit you or correct you, but we did have a little girl in our community, 5 years old, who hung herself.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Right? So
How
how
did they
would
even know?
right? And I said, no, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. I'll change my statistic.
Wow.
So yes, younger people, I think there's a variety of reasons for that, but we don't need to get into that right now. But yeah, I take 3 or 4 calls a week, and I'm pretty successful in managing to talk people down from that. So I'm grateful for that, and then I get them into some kind of support that we can provide, education, etc. I also know of a situation in Nova Scotia where another military man, did that to himself, but he had sat in the hospital all day, mental health care, waiting to be looked at because he knew he was going to lose it. And
There's 2 types, like
yeah,
we were talking earlier about knowing the signs. Like I had no idea. Like I
no,
literally woke up a widow. He just didn't show up to work. So, but they're the ones that do need the help, and there is no help for them, and that's the unfortunate part.
mhm.
Because
Well,
they're supposed to be strong, right? They're supposed to be
well, yeah,
the front, right? The men. And I think that's where a lot of the pressure comes on them, right? They're supposed to be the ones that are supposed to be caring for, the family and being the breadwinner and all that kind of thing. But
And he joined, like I had said at the beginning, like, right at his adolescent, where, that it was such a huge part of his life. So he was trained by the military to have this, tenacity to be strong. And, if you let your comrades down, they're going to be gone and that kind of thing. So I think that plays in your mind and you become very hard on yourself. You become a perfectionist. And I look back now and I always just thought he was so driven. It was like one of the things I was so attracted to him by. But I think inside it was like, eating him up, but he couldn't like vocalize it. And I know a lot of people say this, I wish I knew now, or what's that saying? I wish what I know
I knew
now,
now what I knew.
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I can't say.
Well, this particular case in Nova Scotia, he was in the military, did 2 tours to Afghanistan, and he came home and he knew he wasn't well, and he was trying to get help. And that day that he didn't get the help, that night he went home and he shot his wife, and he shot his 14-year-old daughter, and he shot his mother-in-law, and then he shot himself. Okay. So this is why this is such a urgent thing that you're doing. And I'd like to
Mhm.
get to that
Mhm.
darkness into light. So let's go to you, Michelle, and maybe just share a little bit of history about the organization, which you've done a little bit here already today,
Mhm.
and the mission behind what you're doing. And over to you, Michelle.
Okay. It's a worldwide movement. I mean, it was started in Ireland in 2009, just so small beginnings, but it has spread worldwide. We've only had it in Edmonton now. This will be our 5th year. So there are over 200 official walks across 10 countries and 4 continents. And now they've grown to over 150,000 participants each and every year. So it helps them to continue to raise the awareness and hope in the global fight against suicide and self-harm. So, yeah, I mean, I can go into the rates of suicide, and
Yeah, please
90% of the
do.
suicides. What's that?
Please do. Please
Oh,
do.
I just jotted a few things down last night. So the rates of suicide are 3 times higher in men. Suicide is the 9th leading cause of death in Canada, but for youth and young adults, it is the 2nd leading cause of death. 60% of people won't seek help for a mental illness. For every suicide, 15 to 30 people are impacted, and that number can climb as high as 135. So we always say it's permanent solution to temporary pain, because people don't realize how permanent suicide is. They just want to end their pain. And yeah, I mean, in Canada, there was, now I don't know the year, 4,157 suicide deaths in Canada. Oh, a year, 11 deaths a day, 30 plus attempts to every death, and 2,500 plus number of people we hope to reach every year. So, and our Darkness into Light walk they pick a charity for wherever each walk is being held, and it's going to coordinate suicide prevention program, which encompasses Parkland County, City of Spruce Grove, Town of Stony Plain, and they have gone into Edmonton to do events too. So that's where the money comes to. 50% of your registration fee comes back to coordinated suicide prevention program, and 100% of your donation comes back to us. So it's really nice that it's coming back to the community.
I think it's really important, though, like, although it's going to those outside communities, they welcome people from everywhere, all over.
Yeah.
I think people are like, oh, well, you have to live in that community. Absolutely not. Like,
and you can actually you can actually do this virtually. You don't have to come to Ottawa or Calgary or Edmonton. You can walk it virtually if you can't get here. I mean, you could sign up. You don't have to sign up. You could still donate. We always encourage, if you can, to donate even just a couple bucks or anything if you can. Otherwise, you can walk or run or, swim or whatever, 5K on May the 6th, right? And we do it we're earlier this year. We're doing it at 4 a.m. Yes, that's 4 a.m. So the idea is to walk in the dark, to signify depression, PTSD, anxiety, like you're in the dark, right? You're kind of alone. And then as the sun is rising, that's just to signify hope that you're going to get support that you need, or the resources you need to get through it. So it's really nice that we're all together, and we say we're just going for a walk. We're just supporting each other. Even if you know somebody else who's maybe had depression or anxiety, maybe you're just going for yourself. Maybe you don't even know anybody who's been affected by suicide, but it's just kind of nice to get out and create their awareness, right? That's so needed right now.
Cool.
So,
it gets people out chatting too.
what was that, sorry?
I said
Speak
it gets people out chatting too, right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is to talk
Well,
about it, right? Rather than keeping it inside, we need to talk about it.
Somebody who is next to you who's also going through the same thing. It's pretty hard sometimes to just pick up the phone and be like, hey, blah, blah, because you don't know how it's going to be well received. Sometimes, honestly, all you need is a stranger. You don't even realize it, and
Mm-hmm.
so much healing and hope can happen from that.
Well, only when I started opening up about my dad's death that I realized that a close friend in my circle of friends, she had lost a brother to suicide, and she kept it quiet for many years. Her kids were teenagers before she told her own kids that that's how her brother had died. So, and when I was going around the office, I wore my T-shirt today, and I was going around handing out posters last week. And one of the other girls I work with had lost her dad to suicide too. So, you kind of get that common ground, and you do have that connection deep down that nobody else understands, right? So,
Like when you're brave enough, those people are brave enough in return.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you open up, it gives other people permission to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons I chose not to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. My background's education, so that's my professional background. But in the code of ethics, we're not in those professions. You're not really allowed to share your personal stories.
Right. Yeah.
And so I decided, no, that's not going to help anybody that I want to work with. So I came at it from an educational perspective. Now, I want to put a banner up. If people want to
Oh,
donate,
Oh, yeah.
How do they do that?
If they only want to donate or register.
Yeah, let's say I've got a viewer right now in Georgia watching the show, and they
Okay.
believe in what we're doing. How do they get money to you?
If
Because
they
we
just
need
want
money to
to,
operate.
if they just want to donate without signing up, I mean, you could go to www.darknessintolight.ie.
Okay, just give me a minute here. I'm typing
Sure.
this. Darkness into light
.ie.
.ie.
Yeah. That's you have to pick your country. So Canada, where you're at, you can donate to, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Country and then
Okay.
your city, and then it asks you for the charity.
So is there an at into light, darkness into light
.ie.
.ie? There's no at IE?
No.
Okay. This is why my senior mind is having a little challenge here. I'm just going to run that by you, ladies, and see if I have that done correctly.
I believe so.
Oh,
Yeah.
I better put my glasses on here. Darknessintolight.ie. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you go. This is where our viewers go if they want to make a cash donation. I'm just putting that out there. Is that okay? Do I have your permission?
Yeah. For us, like if you want to personally donate to our coordinated suicide prevention program, sometimes we say just go to Canada Helps, and then you bypass that registration, because that's more or less if you're registering for the walk, and then you have the option to donate to. But sometimes we just direct them to Canada Helps, but it's probably just easier to go through the website.
Okay. So how many people has the walk grown in 5 years? Do you have more people each year? Do you have the same sort of base number?
Well, COVID hit. Our first year,
Hello.
we had 188 people, and then our second year we doubled. We were 500, and our third year we were expecting 1,000 people, and then COVID hit. So then we went virtual for a couple of years. Last year was kind of our first one back in person. So it was like starting over. And this year, I just got word from Gary. We're already at 175, which is pretty good. A lot of people wait till the week before. I think we'll be happy if we get 200, 250 or something this year. But I think it's just growing again, like we're starting over again, right? Because of COVID. So.
And I think people are comfortable again too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Amanda, maybe you could share with us what is the exact route. So let's say if somebody wanted to go on May 6th and get involved in the walk, where do they go if they wanted to physically show up?
Well, they're going to physically show up at Victoria Park, and then the road will be like well lit, and there'll be signs for them to follow. It's 5 kilometers. It's pretty easy, so like any kind of, you know, level of person can do it. Like my
Mhm.
kids, the first time they were, I don't know, how old are they, Michelle? Maybe 7. But I mean, there was kids that were young,
Mhm.
and I see people pull their kids in their wagons too. So I think
Yep.
it's for all people. But yeah, it'll be well marked, and but yeah, it starts at Victoria Park.
Now,
And another
Victoria
thing,
Park is in Edmonton?
pavilion. Yeah. Yeah.
In Edmonton, okay.
And we have the high level bridge lit up in yellow. So that's very
Oh.
symbolic, right? Because a lot of people have lost their lives off that bridge.
Mhm.
And we just changed our route last year because we were supposed to go through the river valley, and there was a lot of snow and ice. So we had to change it. We're going east, like Walterdale Bridge.
Mhm.
And actually, the Walterdale Bridge is beautiful, and there's a bench there that you can sit on and actually watch the sunrise. So, both trails are beautiful and everything, but we just took it on ourselves to go that route again this year. Although it might have been, there might have not been any snow or ice, right? We just had to decide early to know what our route was going to be. And initially, I think we're going through the trees right by Victoria Park Pavilion, so it's going to be dark. We have the trail lit up with our little tea lights, and then we're going to have a memory mile where a bunch of us who are part of the support group are going to have our memory markers with our loved ones on the memory markers. So that's pretty special too. Gary's got a little lighthouse that his nephew built him, and I think it portrayed his wife that passed away. She always kind of spoke about this lighthouse, and his nephew built this lighthouse for Gary, and that comes to the walk too. So yeah, it's pretty special. We'll have a couple fires going, like one along the route where you can have coffee or hot chocolate. There might be somebody playing music, and then back at the pavilion, so people can maybe talk, or we just want that, people can open up and that kind of thing, or just sit around and listen to some music or some stories. So it's really laid back, but it's really nice if you can attend. It's pretty special.
Yes, sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And what about, let's say, just for our viewers out there, because, we're connected to a lot of communities who could actually create their own walk. So
Right.
let's say, if I had a community in Saskatchewan or here in Drayton Valley where I live, we wanted to start that ritual or that tradition, how do we do that?
Oh, you mean to get connected? There is a website. There is actually a Facebook group, Darkness into Light. We have a Facebook group, Darkness into Light Edmonton, and Instagram page. There is one that we connect with, where we get a lot of the information, the T-shirts, that kind of thing, some signage from Ireland, right? It's PETA House in Ireland that kind of heads the whole thing, right? So. Other people kind of have started other walks branched off of this, but it's kind of nice that we do this in solidarity across the whole world, around the same time, but depending where you are in the world.
And it gives it credibility, and people feel safe donating to you, and
Yeah.
it's like a brand, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you brand your business.
Money is also staying local, right? So it is helping the community that you live in. I think that's the most important for people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the next question would be, can you just review for us again? So when you receive support and donations, or what is it that you need? Well, we all need money. What else do you need? What are some things that as an organization you're looking for just to keep it going, to support you? Or what are some things you'd like to see that aren't there yet? Okay.
Well, we have a program coordinator our program coordinator, Brooklyn. She's our coordinator for our coordinates suicide prevention. So she does education and prevention programs. She goes to schools and businesses, and we just did a men and mental health there and in February in Stony Plain, and they had a lot of virtual speakers. Clint Malarchuk was one of them, and they had quite a few, even suicide, like people who have attempted that have survived that speak, and they just had another event in March. We're looking at doing, now that we're opening up, we're looking at doing more events. They do lots of assist courses and that kind of thing to teach the public the signs and symptoms, what to do if you are, maybe your friend is showing risky behavior or anything like that, or making comments. My dad had all the signs I said, and he was telling me he wanted to be cremated and not buried. And it's like, well, why are you telling me this stuff? Like, it was just so odd. And then it hit me what he was doing. He was kind of already planning his death, but he even, a friend of mine had lost her dad a few months earlier to suicide. And my dad had mentioned that would be a good way to go. And it's like, oh my God. And he was drinking more. He wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping. Like he had lots of signs, and he was living alone on the farm. Like I said, my mom and dad were divorced, and it only made sense for him to stay on the farm. So he was by himself. But other things we're looking at, we want to do a big event in the fall, because it affects so many men. I think we're kind of focusing on the more men in mental health, maybe because you see it like kind of the sports too, some of the athletes and that kind of thing. So we're looking at that too. We do a Rotary Run for Life in Stony Plain too in September, usually the second Sunday, I believe, of the month. And we do a Survivor of Suicide Loss Day in November. And then we have Mental Health Week coming up. So there's lots of events and lots of things that we can certainly put the money towards good use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yes, that's great. Because I have men, there's this extra veil, like you talked about, Amanda, in the beginning, about men having to be so strong and not able, if we're a woman and we're female, we got girlfriends, we got sisters, we can go cry on their shoulder. But when men get together, what do they talk about? Sports.
Not
they don't
feelings.
talk about the fact that their marriage is in the ditch. And they don't, there's no safe place, right, for that.
Right.
So that's why you have that, that notion that men are more at risk. Over to you, Amanda.
Right. I was just going to say, I think exactly what you're saying is education, and what Michelle was saying, educating people on the signs. One of the things I was just talking with somebody the other day about was it's not only like about the people who have the mental health issues, it's also about their spouses, because they too are, they're harboring some of their own mental health so that they can help the person who has the mental health. Does that make sense? So they need the tools in their toolbox to help that person while not doing their own, and depleting their cup to the point where they're at the same spot. I'm using this for first responders, military, and that kind of thing. Like right now, my purpose is to talk more openly about suicide, help people to get the help, and to help the people that are helping the people that need the help. Because I think that is the biggest part, is educating. Mm-hmm. And allowing people.
I'm just going to get you to get a little closer to your device there, because we're not hearing you so well.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think education is just the biggest key.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And thank you for mentioning our military and our first responders and people, our firefighters, our corrections staff, our RCMP. I've worked with all of those, but it's just, even more if you have a uniform of some sort on, that's even another layer.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's really passionate for me too, because my husband was a 22-year veteran. And there was no telltale signs that I know now there were some, but I think that's why I'm so passionate about just like, expressing our story and what we've been through. And like Michelle had said, suicide is permanent. Like it is not a short term, it's forever. So, when people say that they want to die, like, yeah, sometimes they just say that, but other times it's because like that's truly how they feel. So we need to get to those, that serve us, we wouldn't be the country we are today without the military. Like you said, firefighters, police, RCMP, corrections, like ambulance, we need them all. And we have to take care of their mental health so that they can take care of
Exactly.
but take care of the people that are taking care of these people, because I think we forget about those people too. And not only because I was a spouse of a veteran, but I think, I wish I had more education. Like, why didn't they educate me more, to say like, hey, he's being released after 22 years, you as a spouse, maybe you need to have these different types of, you know, different signs
Tools.
that could come out. Yeah, the tools, exactly. Like I said, I wish I had known then what I know now.
Right. And I think a lot of this has to be addressed before, by the time they go to a hospital. I worked in emergency a couple years after I graduated, and that is not a place for anybody with depression, or even you get these ones that have attempted suicide. Well, they sit in their bed. If they have to see psych, they're there all night until the next morning. They feel more like a burden to anybody in an emergency department. A lot of times you'll lock them up in a padded room or something like that, but it's just a terrible place
It's
for them to
intimidating.
be.
It's too late then.
It's too late.
Like the crisis has already occurred.
Right. And a lot of times when they're asked, how are they doing? A lot of times they'll just say what you want them to say. So then they're released, right? So, and then they'll do it, do it right the next time. But it's, I don't know, the situation is just, not too good.
I know. Well, a few weeks ago, I guess it was the end of March, I had the honor of speaking at a conference in Kananaskis, which is that beautiful place in Alberta. And I spoke 2 days at a conference that was designed specifically for parents. And so, I have this philosophy that, let's say if you're going to engage in addictions, that doesn't happen the minute you pick up a can of beer. As soon as we land in our environment, whatever that's about to be for us, then we get to choose as parents whether we're going to raise an addict, are we going to raise a bully, are we going to raise somebody that's suicidal. And this is very hurtful for parents who've lost children to suicide, because I could feel people cringing in the audience, but they really, at the end, when I got finished, they recognized what I was trying to say. And so it's those parents that impact the next generation. So Amanda, congratulations to you for taking very good care of your children now. So in 20 years, you're not dealing with the same thing all over again. And that's really what prevention is about. And so if I learn how to love myself enough, I will never do anything to hurt myself, no matter what my circumstances have been. And when we show our children that whatever has gone down is not their fault, and we can instill that, that's called prevention. And I'd love to see as much money spent on prevention as I see going on in aftercare when it's too late.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I talk that all the time.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there, ladies, because, when you have dollars to spend, it needs to be spent on prevention, real prevention, which is influencing the next generation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's huge. Like,
for sure.
have having my own kids, I am just like, it is so important to me. I said to Lori before, I think this walk is amazing for that. It gets these kids young talking about this. Like, it's okay to talk with your friends about it, you know, because I always think like it takes a village to raise your children. I am one person. I can't be everybody. But if someone like if my daughter feels more comfortable to talk to somebody else, like I want her to know that she has a community of people that are there to support her. I think something else that's really worked for me too is I've allowed my kids to go at their own pace in their healing. And I've also really kept the dialogue super open and honest and against what a lot of people wanted me to do. But I'm internally grateful that I stood my ground in that way because now I feel they feel strong and, the situation that they've been given and they're doing their best. And, their friends know. And even doing things like this, I always talk to my kids like, hey, mom's going to do this thing, someone might see it. Yeah, they're good. And my daughter's like, well, I want to say hi.
Well, she can.
I'll go tell her.
Yeah.
Is she here?
Yeah, she's
Is she in the
upstairs.
house?
Well, go get her.
Yes, go get her.
Well, I'm proud of them in that way because they are, at this age to be able to be strong and be able to communicate is really big. And
It's huge.
I want that for all kids.
Yeah. Amanda, it's huge. Congratulations.
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna go.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, go get her. Because I want to ask Michelle, I'll ask Michelle while you're gone, if people would like to join your group, do you do online meetings? How does that work if I want to become part of your
support group?
Yeah.
Or we meet monthly, the last Monday of every month at currently we're meeting at the Stan Maloshin building at 6:30. You can get in touch with, Merle Murray is the one that kind of heads it, but Coordinated Suicide Prevention Program, we have a website and the links are all on there too.
And do you do any virtual support?
Well, we did during COVID, and at one time we did a little bit of Zoom and in-person meeting, but it didn't work too well. So right now we're just doing in person. I mean, that's something we can look at if there is people that are quite a ways away that want that need the support. We do have a survivor Facebook page. If anybody has lost anybody to suicide, we do connect on there quite a bit.
Okay.
You have to get let in or get accepted into the group. So they ask a few questions when you go on there. So
sure.
that's another thing.
What's that page again, Michelle? I'll put it up.
Survivor of suicidal loss.
Survivor of suicidal loss.
It's got a picture of an elephant and a little mouse, I think, on the bench.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right, Amanda, did she show up?
I haven't seen me, Peyton.
Oh.
And her name? Oh, yay. Yummy. Hi. Hi.
How are you?
And your name is?
Peyton.
Peyton.
What is it?
Hi, Peyton.
Peyton. Peyton, welcome to the Lori Davis Show.
Thank you.
You'll be able to tell all your friends tomorrow you were on television yesterday because this is a TV show. Yeah. What grade are you in, Peyton?
Grade 6.
Grade 6, my favorite. I was a teacher. Oh, I loved grade 6. I taught kindergarten for years, and then I became the vice principal of my school, and they said, you can't be a kindergarten teacher and be the vice principal. You have to move to grade 6. And I went, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I got to grade 6, and I loved it even more. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So are you going to participate on May the 6th in the walk?
Yeah.
Good. And what are you going to wear to walk 5 kilometers?
I'm going to wear the Lightness and Darkness shirt, and I'm going to wear my dad's pin to walk for him.
Oh, nice. And you're not going to wear flip-flops, I bet. I bet you're going to wear some like good sneakers, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, that's terrific. It's so nice meeting you. You know, that would be a nice show just to have children on there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
have them share their stories and how they're feeling. Oh my gosh, Peyton, thank you so much for being so confident to come on. You know, a lot of times I have clients and the kids go, "No, I don't. I'm too shy." That's not you.
So
You go,
shy.
girl.
Good job, Peyton.
Good job,
Good
Peyton. Thank
job.
you.
Thanks.
Nice
Nice to
meeting
see
you.
you. See you next weekend.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you
I'm
can bring your
serious,
pet, you can
Amanda.
bring your dog for the walk too. Pets are welcome. Yeah, you can bring your dog. And just dress warm. It's always kind of cool in the middle of the night, right? So bring your warm gloves and good shoes and toque or whatever. It can be kind of chilly. It's looking like it's going to be beautiful Friday and Saturday, and it's Saturday morning. Some people come on the wrong day, like Sunday, but it's Saturday morning at 4 a.m, like Friday night, Saturday morning. So
Okay.
some people
Okay.
get mixed up on the dates and they come on the Sunday. So it is Saturday morning.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
This is greetings from Liz O'Neill. She's an author and she lives on the East Coast of the United States. And she's a regular show attendee. And I also have featured her on an interview. And she writes children's books and she writes books. And she's just an amazing person. So thank you, Liz, for being here again to always support the Lori Davis show. Yes, she's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're coming in from all kinds of places today.
Oh,
All
good.
right. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. So what I'd just like to ask you both is just to share, I think, not, I don't think anything. I know stuff. I know that, when you think, I think, what do you know? Who cares what you think? Anyway, what you ladies know stuff because you've had the experience. That's what gives us our credibility. So over to you, just words of encouragement because the show gets archived in E360 TV. So we're like out there forever right now. All right. So a lot of times people go in because after the show, I'm going to share it with about 15,000 people. All right.
Oh,
So my following has grown, Michelle, since our very
awesome.
first time.
That's so
Remember the
awesome.
first time we did an interview and the technology went down and we had, oh my God, it was terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, secure system here now. This is I like to talk about things that nobody else wants to talk about. So suicide's one of them. Sex is another. Money is another. Divorce is another.
Yeah.
And I like to talk about things that the average bear doesn't want to talk about because that's been our problem. I'm a sexual abuse survivor as well. I like to talk about that. So over to you because we have no idea. My point is who's going to watch this show 6 months from now. So let's make our final words really profound. And over to you for words of encouragement for survivors of suicide, those of us who were left behind. What would you say if we were all on the stage and we had 1,000 people in front of us who had lost a loved one to suicide? What would you say to them?
Who are you addressing to? Who are you addressing?
First, Michelle.
Either one of you, whoever feels moved to speak first on this one, because that's a big question.
Well, yes, it is. I think as a survivor, you need to realize it's, like you said before, it's not your fault. I know you're always asking the question why, and you might never find the answer why. And it's just, if you can connect with other people who have shared the same type of loss, I mean, some things that are going through your head or emotions you've had, you think you're going crazy, but it's normal. It's normal to feel a lot of those emotions, and it takes time, and everybody heals at a different pace. But you have to go through the pain and the grief in the morning to really heal. You can't go around it. If you've ever heard Alan Wolfelt speak, you can't go around it. You have to go through through the woods, like I think he says, through the wilderness to actually heal from the pain and the loss. And I think you're never the same person. But if you can grow, and if like Amanda and I can do this, and you, Lori, like if we can help other people know that it's okay, you can survive it. It's tough. It's really hard, but you'll get through it. It's yeah.
You're not alone. Like, like I think people feel like they're alone. You're not. You really truly are. I was alone at the beginning, and I'm so grateful for the group because I literally felt like I was the only one who had lost anybody to suicide, and that's how I was kind of made to feel like, oh, your husband was in the military? We don't lose people in the military. Well, lo and behold, we do. Just a lot of people even really talked about it at that time. So, the saying that Ellen Wolfeld says, like my saying is, you got to go through the fire. You have to sit in that. You have to feel the burn. And then when you come out on the other side, but everybody wants to go around it. And Michelle's right. There is no one size fits all. Lori, you talked about your first year. My first year was really similar. Coming to terms that I literally drank all night and slept all day, it like killed me. But once I came out of that, the parts that healed, I had to do those things, and I also, one thing that I got from a pastor once was he said, have hope. And then he just kept saying that. And he's like, do you know what hope means? And I was like, no. And he said, hang on, pain ends. And I'm so grateful for that. I have so much compassion for people. And yeah, so just you're not alone, and to reach out and have people be brave enough to reach out to you too. So
Thank you.
And do things to help the mental health, right? If it's going for a walk, or reading a book, and listening to your body, right? I think that's such a big thing now, right? Is to take care of yourself.
Self-care.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Go ahead, Amanda, and then I'm going to wrap things up. So over to you.
Everything else kind of comes together, it definitely starts there.
Yeah,
you betcha. Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies, for being here. We've been listening to and watching the Lori Davis Show, Dr. Lori Davis Show, here on E360 TV. Please go in and replay. The show will also be shareable on Self-Worth of Missing Link Superstars Facebook page. It's on there right now, and you can go in and share the show with as many people as possible. And I am so grateful, Michelle. I think this is our third or fourth year in a row that we were able to support you by putting you on the show and talking to our audience around that. And Amanda, thank you for being brave and coming on and sharing your story as well, because the best way for us to help other people heal is to share our stories.
Absolutely.
So thank you, ladies, very much. And we'll see everybody next week for some live shows. Tomorrow's a recorded kind of day. I take Mondays and Fridays, but you can still go in and get shows because we broadcast every day. And Liz had a final comment here. I'm going to put it up. Suicide leaves packages for people to unwrap. Oh, there we go. Presents. Confusion, self-blame, anger at self, anger at the loved one who has suicided, betrayal, helplessness, powerlessness, an open wound, and guilt. Well said by a professional author, I'd say. Miss Liz, you are amazing. All right. So wave goodbye to everybody for now and hang in there once I get us off the camera and off the mic. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.